At 2:47 p.m. on September 12, 1944, Corporal Raymond Hutchins crouched in the loader's position of Sherman tank Dusty Devil, 3 miles outside Aachen, Germany, when the gunner's voice cut through the engine noise. "Tank! Front! 800 yards!" Hutchins's hands moved automatically, grabbed the spent brass casing from the previous shot, yanked it clear of the breech. Hot metal burned through his gloves. The turret reeked of cordite and sweat. His ears rang from the last firing sequence, but he couldn't see what they were shooting at. The 75mm gun breech blocked his forward view completely. Hutchins craned his neck around the mechanism, tried to look through the gunner's periscope space, caught a glimpse of something grey, angular, moving. "Load, ape! Load, ape! Now!" Armor piercing. Tank target. Hutchins reached for the ammunition rack. His hand hesitated for half a second. Was that a Panzer or a self-propelled gun? The distinction mattered. Different armor profiles. Different weak points. He grabbed what he thought was an AP round, shoved it into the breech, slammed the mechanism closed. "Up!" The gunner fired. The 75mm roared. Recoil slammed the breech backward. Hutchins was already reaching for the next round when the gunner's voice changed from command to panic. "Shit! Wrong round! Wrong round! It bounced!" Hutchins looked at the ammunition rack. Saw the white stencil markings. M48, high explosive. He'd loaded hay against armor. The round had hit the Panzer's glacis plate and detonated harmlessly against external plating. The German return shot came 3 seconds later. Hutchins felt the impact before he heard it. The driver's compartment erupted in flame and fragments. Screaming. The smell of burning flesh mixed with cordite. Driver killed instantly. Tank commander calling for bailout. Hutchins pulled himself through the turret hatch into German afternoon sunlight, ears bleeding, hands shaking. That was the 3rd Sherman Hutchins had watched die, because loaders couldn't see what they were shooting at. The 3rd Armoured Division had been pushing into Germany since early September 1944. Spearhead Division, first across the border. First to engage German armour on German soil. And they were bleeding. In the previous 4 weeks, the division lost 47 Sherman tanks, 47 crews. Some bailed out, some didn't. The wreckage littered the roads from Belgium to Aachen like burned-out mile markers. After-action reports told a consistent story. 31 of those lost Shermans had fired the wrong ammunition type on their first engagement shot. Wrong round meant wasted shot. Wasted shot meant the enemy fired back first. Enemy firing first meant dead Americans. The technical problem was simple and brutal. Sherman tanks carried 2 primary ammunition types. M62 armor-piercing, capped rounds for enemy tanks. M48 high-explosive rounds for infantry. Trucks, buildings, soft targets. AP rounds were solid shot, designed to penetrate armor. HE rounds were explosives designed to fragment and kill exposed personnel. Using AP against infantry was inefficient but survivable. Using HE against armor was suicide. The loader sat directly behind the 75mm gun breech. When the gun was loaded and ready to fire, the breech mechanism completely blocked the loader's forward view. The gunner, positioned to the loader's left, had a clear sight picture through the periscope. The gunner could see the target clearly, identify it, range it, track it. The loader saw the inside of a steel turret and the back of a gun breech. Communication link between gunner and loader. Shouted commands. The gunner identified the target, called it out, specified ammunition type. The loader selected the round, loaded it, confirmed ready status. This process worked fine on training ranges in Kentucky. Predictable targets, no incoming fire, no engine noise, no radio chatter, no one trying to kill you. In combat, the system failed constantly. Engine noise drowned out, voices. Gun recoil left everyone temporarily deaf. Radio traffic overlapped with internal commands. German return fire made everyone scream and nobody listen. The average delay from target identification to correct ammunition selection was 6 to 8 seconds. The math killed Americans every day. German Panzer IV reload time, 7 seconds. Sherman with correct round already loaded, 6 seconds. Sherman with wrong round loaded, 12 seconds minimum to extract wrong round, load correct round, and fire again, 12 seconds. The Panzer fired twice in that span. Once was usually enough. 3 specific crews illustrated the pattern. Sergeant Thomas Wickham's crew, September 3rd, encountered German half-tracks near Mons. Loader mistook vehicles for tanks in the confusion, loaded AP instead of HE. First shot penetrated one half-track but didn't explode effectively. Remaining half-tracks returned fire with 20mm autocannon. Wickham's gunner killed, commander wounded, tank disabled. Corporal Eddie Rostkowski's crew, September 8th, ambushed by Panzer IV outside Liège. Gunner called for AP. Loader, disoriented from previous explosion nearby, grabbed HE. First shot detonated against Panzer's frontal armor, 0 penetration. Panzer's return shot killed the driver and loader. Rostkowski survived with severe burns. Lieutenant James Morrison's crew, September 11th, engaged 2 Panzer IVs in a village square. Morrison's loader selected correct ammunition for the first Panzer, killed it. Second Panzer appeared from alley. Loader, still focused on first target, loaded another AP round before seeing the second target was presenting angled armor where HE would have been more effective against tracks. Shot bounced. Panzer returned fire. Commander and gunner killed. The Army's response was institutional and inadequate. Ordnance Department issued revised radio protocols. Clearer target designation language. Gunners were trained to use specific terminology. Tank, front, not just front. Loaders were required to verbally confirm ammunition type before loading. AP, confirmed, or he, confirmed. Training programs emphasized crew discipline. Speed drills, communication drills, verbal confirmation drills. None of it addressed the core problem. Loaders still couldn't see what they were shooting at. They worked blind, making life or death decisions based on shouted commands in chaos. The doctrine assumed perfect communication in imperfect conditions. It assumed the verbal link between gunner and loader would never fail. It failed constantly, and people died. Raymond Hutchins was 24 years old, born in Dearborn, Michigan. Grew up 3 miles from the Ford River Rouge plant. Started working there at 18, assembly line, building frames for B-24 bombers. He understood manufacturing, understood efficiency, understood how wasted motion killed productivity. In December 1942, Hutchins was drafted. Army assigned him to armor, not because he requested it, because they needed bodies to fill. Sherman tanks and Hutchins's factory experience suggested mechanical aptitude. He wasn't an engineer, wasn't an officer, just a corporal, tank loader, promoted from private after 4 months for what his efficiency report called exceptional performance under fire. Hutchins loaded ammunition faster than average and didn't panic when people were shooting at him. His temperament was wrong for heroism and perfect for survival. Quiet, methodical. He didn't talk much, didn't volunteer opinions, but he noticed patterns other people missed. September 13th, 1944. Day after Dusty Devil burned, Hutchins stood in the maintenance area watching loaders service their tanks. He counted 23 loaders performing the same tasks: refilling ammunition racks, checking breech mechanisms, cleaning gun tubes. And he watched them practice loading drills. Every loader did the same thing, grabbed a round, loaded it, then craned their neck around the breech to look toward the front of the Klasers tank, trying to see what wasn't visible from their position, confirming mentally with what the gunner might be seeing. Hutchins started timing them. 2.3 seconds average. From loading completion to visual confirmation attempt. 2.3 seconds of the loader trying to see forward, trying to understand the tactical situation, trying to anticipate the next command. In training, that didn't matter. The enemy was plywood and paint. On the combat range, that 2.3 seconds was the difference between killing and dying, between right ammunition and wrong ammunition, between coming back and burning. Hutchins had a question nobody else seemed to be asking. Why did German loaders load faster? He'd been inside a captured Panzer IV the previous week. Intelligence officers let crews examine captured equipment, learn enemy capabilities. Hutchins had climbed into the Panzers turret, taken the loader's position, studied the layout. The German loader position wasn't dramatically different. Slightly better sightline forward, maybe, but not enough to explain the speed difference. German loaders still sat behind the breech, still had obstructed views. So what was different? Better training? More experience? Better communication discipline? Hutchins didn't think so. The Germans had been fighting since 1939, 5 years of combat experience. American crews had months. Experience mattered, but it didn't explain everything. That evening, Hutchins found his tank commander, Sergeant McKinley. McKinley was 31, old for a tank crew. Former truck driver from Ohio. Good commander. Calm under fire. Survived 11 engagements. Sarge, Hutchins said, how do German loaders know what to load? McKinley looked up from the maintenance log he was filling out. Same as us, Gunner tells them. But they're faster. They've been doing this since '39. We're learning. Hutchins didn't accept that answer. Experience explained some advantage, not all of it. There was something else, something structural. That night in his bunk, Hutchins couldn't sleep. Around him, 40 men snored and shifted and dreamed. Outside, artillery rumbled in the distance. Someone's war. Always someone's war. Hutchins thought about the Ford assembly line. He'd spent 3 years building bomber frames. Repetitive work. Bolt this, weld that, move to the next station. The line never stopped. If you fell behind, you didn't catch up. You failed. But the line was designed so you never fell behind. You could see 3 stations ahead. You knew what was coming. You prepared. Grabbed the right tool before you needed it. Positioned materials before the frame arrived. Anticipation. Preparation. No wasted motion. What if a loader could work the same way? What if a loader could see what the gunner was seeing, not after the gunner called the command? Before, while the gunner was still traversing, while the target was still approaching. What if the loader didn't need to wait for commands? What if he could see the target himself and choose the right ammunition instinctively, immediately, without the verbal delay? The thought was so simple it seemed stupid, but Hutchins couldn't let it go. He lay in the dark, listening to artillery and snoring, thinking about sight lines and ammunition racks and the 2.3 seconds every loader wasted trying to see what they couldn't see. Somewhere in the mathematics of turret geometry and human reaction time, there had to be a solution. There had to be a way to let loaders see the battlefield without redesigning the entire tank. Hutchins just hadn't figured it out yet. But he would. Because he was tired of loading blind, tired of guessing, tired of watching Shermans burn because loaders picked the wrong round in the chaos. He was tired of people dying from a problem that felt solvable. He just needed to see it from a different angle. September 14th, 1944, 0830 hours. The 3rd Armoured Division held position outside the village of St. Vith, Belgium. Brief rest period. 48 hours to refit, repair, replace crews. The division had pushed hard for 2 weeks. Equipment was breaking. People were breaking. Hutchins walked through the village alone. Most crews stayed near their tanks, sleeping, cleaning weapons, writing letters. Hutchins needed to walk, needed to think, needed to see something other than the inside of a turret. St. Vith had been beautiful once. Cobblestone streets, stone houses with slate roofs, small shops with painted signs. Now, it was rubble. Allied artillery had cleared the Germans out 3 days earlier. Cleared the buildings out too. Walls stood at half height. Roofs collapsed inward. Furniture spilled into streets. Hutchins walked past a destroyed bakery, past a pharmacy with its entire front wall missing, past a tobacco shop that was now just a pile of brick and burnt wood. He stopped at a collapsed farmhouse at the edge of the village. 3 stories reduced to 1.5. The explosion, or artillery strike, had sheared the building diagonally. The kitchen was exposed like a dollhouse. Pots still hung on hooks. A table still stood upright, covered in plaster dust. The second-floor bathroom was visible from the street. The exterior wall had fallen away completely. Hutchins could see the fixtures, a sink hanging from one pipe, a toilet, cracked but somehow still bolted to the floor, and a mirror, 4 inches by 6 inches, rectangular, beveled edges, mounted above where the sink had been. The frame was gilt, tarnished now, damaged on one corner. But the mirror itself was intact, not even cracked. Hutchins stared at it. Light from the morning sun hit the mirror at an angle. The reflection showed the street behind Hutchins, showed a wall across the street, showed sky. He could see behind himself without turning around. The thought arrived, fully formed, complete, obvious. If I can see behind me in a mirror, I can see in front of me with a mirror, if I position it right. Hutchins climbed through the rubble, careful. The floor was unstable. Beams hung at wrong angles. He reached the bathroom section, grabbed the mirror frame, pulled. It resisted. He pulled harder. The frame separated from the wall with a crack of old plaster and bent nails. He climbed back down, examined the mirror in daylight. The glass was good, reflective coating intact. The frame was damaged, but the mirror itself was perfect. 4 by 6 inches, small enough to fit inside a turret, large enough to show a useful image. Hutchins wrapped the mirror in a cloth from his musette bag, carried it carefully back toward the tank park. Private Tommy Garza saw him coming. Garza was Brawler's bow gunner, 20 years old, from San Antonio. He watched Hutchins approach with the wrapped package. "Ray," Garza called out. "What you find? Souvenirs?" "Something like that." "What is it?" Hutchins unwrapped the cloth slightly. "Let Garza see the mirror." Garza stared. "You're looting bathroom fixtures. Now." "It's not looting if the building doesn't exist anymore." "What do you need a mirror for?" Hutchins rewrapped it. "I'll let you know if it works." Garza shook his head. "You're a weird guy, Ray." Hutchins didn't disagree. He walked to Brawler. The Sherman sat in a field, camouflage netting draped over the turret. Sergeant McKinley was underneath, checking the suspension. The rest of the crew was sleeping in bedrolls near the treads. Hutchins climbed onto the hull, opened the loader's hatch, dropped inside. The turret was empty, quiet, strange to be inside without the engine running, without someone shouting, without the gun moving. Hutchins positioned himself in the loader's station, the exact place he'd spent hundreds of hours. The ammunition racks to his right, the gun breech directly in front of him, the gunner's position to his left. He unwrapped the mirror, held it up at different angles, watched what the reflections showed. Too high, showed the turret roof. Too low, showed the turret floor. Angled wrong, showed the sidewall. But at approximately 45 degrees, positioned about 8 inches above the breech, the mirror caught the forward view. Not perfectly. The angle wasn't quite right yet. But Hutchins could see the general direction the gun was pointing, could see light coming through the gunner's periscope area. It would work. It had to work. He just needed to mount it correctly. Hutchins needed wire. Not rope. Not cord. Wire. Something that could hold the mirror firmly in position without slipping. Something that wouldn't burn if the gun got hot during sustained firing. Something strong enough to handle the vibration when the tank moved. He found it in the maintenance area. A destroyed Sherman sat on blocks, being cannibalized for parts. The radio equipment had already been removed, but the wiring remained. Hutchins pulled a 3-foot section of communications wire from the radio mounting bracket. Tested its strength. Solid. Flexible, but strong. Perfect. Back at Brawler, Hutchins gathered his tools. Pliers, wire cutters, a rag to clean the mounting area. He checked his watch. 1,400 hours. The crew would be awake in another hour. He wanted this done before anyone asked questions. Before anyone told him it was stupid. He climbed back into the turret, closed the hatch, wanted to work without distractions. The first step was cleaning the mounting area. Hutchins wiped down the turret wall above the breech, removed dust, oil residue, small metal shavings from gun maintenance. The surface needed to be clean so the wire wouldn't slip. Next, he examined the existing mounting points. Sherman turrets had multiple small brackets and hard points for various equipment, radio cables, gunner's equipment, small tools. Most were already in use, but Hutchins found 2 unused bolt holes approximately 10 inches apart. Perfect spacing. He could use those as anchor points. Now the difficult part. Mounting the mirror. Hutchins wrapped the communications wire around the mirror's gilt frame. Not around the glass itself, too much pressure might crack it. Around the damaged frame, weaving the wire through the ornate metalwork. He created 2 wire loops extending from opposite sides of the frame. These loops would anchor to the turret brackets. He held the mirror in position, approximately 45 degrees, 8 inches above the breech, slightly offset to the left so it didn't interfere with the loading motion. With his left hand holding the mirror steady, his right hand worked the wire, threading 1 loop through the first bracket, pulling it tight, twisting it back on itself to lock it in place. His fingers fumbled. The wire was stiff. The space was tight. Sweat dripped into his eyes. First anchor point secure. The mirror hung at an angle now, supported on one side. Hutchins adjusted the mirror's position, found the correct angle by looking at the reflection. He could see the gunner's periscope area now, could see forward, not a perfect view, but functional. He secured the second wire loop, threaded it through the second bracket, pulled it tight, twisted, locked, the mirror held. Hutchins released his grip carefully, watched for any slipping. The mirror stayed in position, stable. The wire frame created just enough tension to hold it, without adhesive or additional support. Total installation time. Hutchins checked his watch. 12 minutes from the moment he started cleaning the surface to the moment he released the mirror and confirmed it held. Now for the test. Hutchins took his normal loading position. Crouched slightly, right hand on the ammunition rack, left hand ready to manipulate the breech. His eyes naturally looked forward toward the back of the breech mechanism. But now, 8 inches above the breech, the mirror caught his peripheral vision. He looked at it. The reflection showed the forward interior of the turret, showed the gunner's position, showed the periscope area. If someone was sitting in the gunner's seat, Hutchins would be able to see approximately what the gunner was seeing. He moved through a practice loading sequence, grabbed a dummy round from the rack, positioned it at the breech. Eyes on the mirror the entire time. The mirror stayed visible throughout the loading motion, didn't interfere with his hands, didn't obstruct his movement. He completed the loading sequence, stood back, looked at the mirror again. It worked. In theory. The loader's hatch opened. Sergeant McKinley's head appeared. "Ray, what are you doing in there?" "Testing something." McKinley climbed down into the turret, took his usual position in the commander's cupola. His eyes found the mirror immediately. "What the hell is that?" "Mirror." "I can see it's a mirror. Why is there a mirror in my turret?" Hutchins explained. "Kept it simple. Loader can't see forward. Gunner can. Mirror reflects gunner's view to loader's position. Loader can see what gunner sees. Loader selects ammunition, based on visual confirmation, not shouted commands. Faster loading, better ammunition selection." McKinley climbed down to the gunner's position, sat in the seat, looked through the periscope. "Traverse left to that tree," Hutchins said. McKinley traversed. The gun moved. Hutchins watched the mirror. The reflection changed, showed the tree now, showed McKinley's perspective. "Can you see what I'm looking at?" McKinley asked. "Yes." "From the loader position?" "Yes." McKinley traversed right, then left again, then elevated the gun. Hutchins tracked every movement in the mirror. McKinley climbed out of the gunner's seat, stood next to Hutchins. Both of them looked at the mirror. That's... McKinley paused. That's actually smart. Does it get in the way? Hutchins asked. Let me see you load. Hutchins went through the full sequence, grabbed a round from the rack, positioned it, opened the breech, inserted the round, closed the breech, cleared the recoil zone, all while watching the mirror to maintain awareness of where the gun was pointing. No interference. The mirror stayed visible, but didn't obstruct any motion. McKinley watched the sequence twice, then nodded. It works. Doesn't block anything. And you can actually see forward now. That's the idea. How'd you come up with this? Bathroom mirror, destroyed farmhouse. McKinley laughed. You put a bathroom mirror in a tank. I put a sight aid in a tank. Does it change anything tactically? Hutchins considered. I can choose ammunition based on what I see, not what I hear. Faster, more accurate, less communication delay. McKinley looked at the mirror again, touched the wire mounting, tested its stability. The mirror didn't move. Keep it, McKinley said. We'll test it tomorrow on the range. And if it works in combat, then we'll find out if you're crazy or if you just changed how we fight. Hutchins didn't respond. He looked at the mirror. 4 by 6 inches. Beveled glass, salvaged from rubble, mounted with communications wire in 12 minutes. Either this was the stupidest thing he'd ever done, or it was going to save lives. Tomorrow would tell him which. 0630 hours. Mission briefing in a bombed-out schoolhouse. Lieutenant Hartwell stood at the front, map pinned to the remaining wall. 15 tank commanders crowded into the space. The room smelled like wet wool and diesel fuel. Objective, Hartwell said, tapping the map. Advance 3 miles toward Stolberg. Clear German resistance along this axis. Intelligence reports enemy armor in the area. Composition unknown. Could be anything from Panzer IVs to Panthers. Unknown composition. That meant loaders would have to adapt fast. Choose ammunition based on what they saw, not what they expected. Hutchins sat outside with the rest of the enlisted crew. They got the abbreviated version later. Go here. Shoot that. Don't die. The usual. Sergeant McKinley emerged from the briefing, found Hutchins checking Brawler's ammunition, racks. Hutchins had reorganized them the previous evening. AP rounds on the left, easy reach. HE rounds on the right, half-second further. If he was going to choose ammunition by sight, he needed to know exactly where each type was without looking. Ray, McKinley said. About that mirror. What about it? Just be smart today. If it doesn't work, go back to normal loading procedures. Don't get fixated on making it work if it's not working. Understood. McKinley climbed onto the hull. Hutchins followed. The crew assembled. McKinley in the commander's cupola. Corporal Eddie Price in the gunner's seat. Private Tommy Garza at the bow gun. Private First Class Jake Wilson driving. And Hutchins in the loader's position. Hutchins settled in. Checked his surroundings. Ammunition racks full. Breech clean. Gun mechanism functioning. And 8 inches above the breech, the mirror, reflecting the forward view, showing him what Price would be seeing through the periscope. 0715 hours. The column moved out. 4 Shermans in loose formation. Hartwell's tank in the lead. Brawler second. 2 more following. The countryside was devastated. Fields churned to mud by tracked vehicles. Stone walls knocked flat. Trees splintered by artillery. They passed burned-out German trucks, abandoned equipment, the debris of retreat. Inside the turret, silence. The engine's roar made conversation impossible. Each crew member alone with thoughts and vibration and the smell of oil and metal. Hutchins kept his eyes on the mirror, watched the world scroll past in reflection. Fields, ruins, road. The mirror showed him what Price was seeing, showed him the direction of travel, showed him potential threats before they became active threats. At 0847 hours, the column crossed into Germany proper. The border was theoretical now. No signs, no markers, just more destroyed countryside. But the radio chatter changed. Everyone tightened up. This was enemy homeland, different rules, different intensity. 0847 hours. Rifle fire. Distant. Single shots. Price traversed the gun toward the sound. Hutchins watched in the mirror, saw the tree line swing into view. Movement. Infantry. Maybe 6 or 7 Germans in defensive positions. McKinley's voice. Infantry. Front. 400 yards. Before he finished the sentence, Hutchins had selected A. Soft target. High explosive round. He had it in his hands while McKinley was still calling the target. Price was traversing, finding the exact aiming point. Hutchins was already positioned behind the breech. Load he, McKinley ordered. Already loaded, Hutchins said. Price fired. The gun recoiled. The HE round detonated in the tree line. Fire and fragments. The rifle fire stopped immediately. McKinley looked at Hutchins. You loaded before I called it? Saw them in the mirror. Infantry. Knew it was he. Price ejected the spent casing. It hit the turret floor with a metallic clang. Hutchins already had another HE round ready, just in case. But the radio crackled. Cease fire! Infantry neutralized! The column continued. Hartwell's voice over the radio. Brawler. That was fast. Good shooting. But it wasn't the shooting that was fast. It was the loading. 4.1 seconds from target identification to firing. Normal time was 7 to 8 seconds. The mirror had cut the loading time by 40%. McKinley noticed. Price noticed. Even Wilson, driving, had felt the difference in the rhythm of fire. At 0910 hours, they entered a sunken farm road, stone walls on both sides, limited visibility, hedgerows, the perfect terrain for ambush. Hutchins felt his stomach tighten, watched the mirror constantly. Price was scanning. Left, right, forward, the periscope view swinging back and forth. Then Price stopped, centered the periscope. Hutchins saw it in the mirror at the same instant Price saw it through the optics. Armor, grey, angular, gun barrel, Panzer IV, 0914 hours. The radio exploded with traffic. Armor! Front! 3 tanks! Hartwell's voice. Lead tank. Hutchins couldn't see Hartwell's Sherman from his position, but he heard the urgency. Through the mirror, Hutchins watched Price's view. 3 German Panzer IVs, 800 yards ahead. The lead Panzer was in a hull-down position behind a collapsed stone wall, only the turret visible. The 2nd and 3rd Panzers were flanking, partially concealed by hedgerows. Professional setup. Textbook ambush positioning. The Germans had chosen this spot deliberately. Sunken road. Limited maneuver space. American tanks would have to advance through a killing zone or reverse out, exposing their thinner rear armor. Hutchins assessed the situation through the mirror. 3 Panzers. 4 Shermans. Numbers advantage. America. Position advantage. Germany. Firepower advantage. Germany. The Panzer IV's 75mm KUK-40 gun could penetrate a Sherman's frontal armor at this range. The Sherman's 75mm M3 gun could penetrate a Panzer IV, but only with good shot placement. This would be decided by speed. Whoever fired first, fired most accurately, would survive. Hartwell's tank fired. Hutchins saw the tracer through the mirror. High arc. The shot missed. Hartwell had rushed it. Panic shot. The lead Panzer returned fire immediately. Hutchins didn't see the impact, but he heard it over the radio. Metal on metal. Hartwell's voice. We're hit. Turret damaged. Guns out. Bailing out. The radio traffic became chaos. 3 Shermans now. 3 Panzers. Even odds, except the Germans were in prepared positions and the Americans were in a kill zone. McKinley's voice cut through the radio noise. Brawler engaging. Price. Target center tank. Through the mirror, Hutchins saw Price center the periscope on the lead Panzer, the one that had just killed Hartwell's gun, the one in the hull-down position. Hutchins evaluated the target. Frontal aspect, hull mostly concealed, turret exposed. Range, approximately 800 yards. Angle, straight on. No deflection needed. Ammunition, required. Armor piercing. His hand moved to the ammunition rack before McKinley gave the command, grabbed the M62 APC round, felt its weight, 35 pounds of hardened steel and explosive filler. The previous round was already extracted. Training reflex. Always clear the breech between engagements. Hutchins positioned himself. Watched the mirror. Price was still fine-tuning the aim. Traverse, small adjustments, getting the perfect shot. Hutchins opened the breech. The mechanism swung aside with a metallic chunk. He positioned the AP round. Aligned it. The mirror showed Price steadying. Almost ready. Hutchins inserted the round. Smooth motion. No hesitation. The round seated properly. He closed the breech. The mechanism locked with a solid click. Up! Hutchins called. Time from target identification to ready to fire. 3.4 seconds. Normal time, 6 to 8 seconds. McKinley registered the speed. His voice came a half-second later. You loaded that before I even called it. Saw the target in the mirror. Knew it was armor. Price's voice. On the way. The 75mm gun fired. The turret filled with smoke and pressure. The recoil threw the breech backward. Hutchins was already watching the mirror through the smoke. Tracking the shot. The tracer arced across the 800 yards. Seemed to move in slow motion. Hutchins watched it close on the Panzer's turret. Hit. The AP round struck the Panzer's upper glacis, just below the turret ring. Perfect shot placement. The hardened penetrator punched through 80mm of German armor plate. The explosive filler detonated inside the crew compartment. Through the mirror, Hutchins saw the result. Smoke poured from the Panzer's hatches. The turret stopped moving. No return fire. Catastrophic kill. Hit! Price shouted. He's done! But there was no time to celebrate. The second Panzer was already moving. Hutchins saw it in the mirror. The Panzer was reversing into better cover, angling its hull to present thicker, effective armor. This is where the system usually failed. New target, new situation, new ammunition requirements. The gunner had to identify, call it, wait for loader confirmation, then fire. 6 to 8 seconds minimum. Hutchins didn't wait for commands. He watched the mirror, saw the second Panzer angling, saw the hull position, and he understood immediately. Angled armor meant AP rounds might ricochet, but the Panzer was reversing. Tracks exposed, side aspect becoming visible, high explosive, track shot, mobility kill. Hutchins grabbed an HE round from the right rack, extracted the spent AP casing with his left hand. The hot brass burned even through his glove. He dumped it on the turret floor. Price was traversing toward the second Panzer. McKinley was calling commands. Target tank, left wait, load AP for... He's already in, Hutchins interrupted. Track shot. McKinley paused, processed. Understood. You sure? Armor's angled. AP won't bite. But his tracks are exposed. Price, finished. Traversing. Centered the second Panzer in his sight. The Panzer was still reversing, still presenting that angled hull. Firing! Price called. The gun roared again. The HE round crossed the distance, detonated against the Panzer's left track assembly. The explosion was massive. High explosive rounds didn't penetrate armor. They fragmented. The fragments shredded the track, destroyed the road wheels, jammed the drive sprocket. The Panzer slewed sideways, immobilized. The crew was probably alive, but the tank wasn't going anywhere. Mission kill. Just as effective as a catastrophic kill in this tactical situation. How did you know? McKinley asked. Saw the angle in the mirror. Made the call. Without my authorization? Didn't have time to ask, Sarge. McKinley didn't respond. But Hutchins heard something in the silence. Not anger. Respect. The 3rd Panzer had watched 2 of its companions die in 30 seconds. The German commander made a decision. Aggressive. Risky. The Panzer accelerated forward, closing the range fast. Smart tactic. Negate the American advantage of faster reload by getting close enough that neither side could miss. Turn it into a point-blank brawl, where positioning and luck mattered more than technique. Through the mirror, Hutchins tracked the Panzer's approach. 650 yards. 600. 550. The German was coming straight at them. Price traversed to track the movement. Hutchins was already ejecting the spent HE casing. Already reaching for AP. Frontal engagement. Closing range, armor piercing required. He had the round in his hands before Price finished traversing. Had it positioned at the breech before McKinley called the ammunition type. Loading sequence. Open breech, insert round, close breech. Up, time, 3.5 seconds. The Panzer was at 500 yards now, 475. Hutchins watched in the mirror, saw the Panzer's gun elevate slightly. They were aiming. The Panzer fired first. Hutchins felt the round pass, didn't see it, just felt the displacement. The shell screamed past Brawler's turret, missed by 3 feet, close enough to feel. Price held his fire, discipline. Let the range close. 450 yards, better penetration chance. Firing! The 75mm fired. Hutchins watched the impact in the mirror. Center mass, turret ring. The AP round punched through the junction between turret and hull. Weakest armor point on any tank. The Panzer exploded. Not just smoke. Actual explosion. The ammunition storage had detonated. The turret lifted 6 feet off the hull. Hung there for half a second. Fell back at an angle. Flames poured from every opening. No survivors. 914 to 59. Engagement over. 4 minutes, 11 seconds from first contact. 3 Panzer IVs destroyed or disabled. Brawler, 0 damage. Hutchins leaned back against the turret wall. His hands were shaking. Adrenaline. His ears rang from 3 main gunshots in enclosed space. The turret smelled like cordite and hot, metal and sweat. But they were alive, and the mirror had worked. McKinley opened his hatch, stood in the cupola, surveyed the battlefield, 3 Panzers burning or immobilized. The other 2 Shermans in the column were intact. Hartwell's crew was on foot, but alive. McKinley looked down at Hutchins. Loading times? Hutchins checked his mental clock. 3.4, 3.1, 3.5. Jesus Christ, that's half normal time. Mirror lets me see what Price sees. I choose ammunition before you call it. You just changed how we fight, McKinley said. Hutchins looked at the mirror. 4 by 6 inches. Salvaged bathroom fixture. Mounted with wire. It had worked exactly as he'd theorized. Better, even. The radio crackled. Hartwell's voice. Brawler. How did you engage that fast? McKinley keyed the radio. New loading technique. We'll explain later. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. You just saved our asses. The column regrouped. Continued the advance. Was already spreading. Brawler had killed 3 Panzers in 4 minutes. Something was different about their loading speed. By the time they reached Stolberg that evening, every crew in the battalion wanted to know Hutchins's secret. September 19th, 1,830 hours. Battalion assembly area, 3 miles south of Stolberg. 32 Sherman tanks arranged in defensive positions. Crews performing evening maintenance. Refueling. Rearming. Cleaning guns. Standard post-combat routine. Hutchins stood beside Brawler, running a cleaning rod down the 75mm barrel. The gun was hot. Fired 3 rounds in combat. Needed cleaning before the carbon buildup caused problems. Ray. Hutchins turned. Corporal Vincent Delacroix approached. Delacroix was a loader from C Company, tank nicknamed Poker Face. French-Canadian kid from Maine, 22 years old. Good at his job. Fast hands. Heard you smoked 3 Panzers in 4 minutes, Delacroix said. Crew effort. Heard you got some kind of trick, something about a mirror. Hutchins set down the cleaning rod, climbed up onto Brawler's hull, gestured for Delacroix to follow. They entered the turret. Hutchins pointed at the mirror. 8 inches above the breech, 4 by 6 inches of salvaged glass reflecting the forward view. Delacroix stared at it. That's just a mirror. That's all it is. What's it do? Reflects the gunner's periscope view. I can see what the gunner sees while I'm loading. Don't have to wait for commands. I see a Panzer, I grab AP. I see infantry, I grab HE. No communication delay. Delacroix leaned closer. Examined the mounting. Simple wireframe, no complicated brackets. No modification to the tank's structure. How much faster? Cut my loading time from 6 seconds to 3.5. 40% faster. About that. Delacroix touched the mirror, tested its stability. Would you help me put one in my tank? Hutchins nodded. Find a mirror. 4 to 6 inches. Any reflective surface works. Glass, polished, metal, chrome. Then find wire for mounting. Communications wire works best. Takes about 10 minutes to install. Where do I find a mirror? Hutchins gestured toward the destroyed village visible in the distance. Anywhere there used to be buildings. Within an hour, 4 more loaders had approached Hutchins. Word travelled fast in a tank battalion. Brawler had killed 3 Panzers. Hutchins had some kind of secret. Something about seeing what the gunner sees. Sergeant Eddie Morrison from A Company. Private First Class. Tony Benedetto from B Company. Corporal James Wright from C Company. Private William Buck Patterson from D Company. All wanted mirrors. All wanted to load faster. All wanted to survive. Hutchins explained the concept to each one. Show them Brawler's installation. Explained the geometry. The mirror had to reflect the gunner's view into the loader's line of sight. Angle mattered. Position mattered. But the basic principle was simple enough that anyone could replicate it. September 20th, 0800 hours. The scavenger hunt began. Hutchins watched loaders spread through the nearby village, searching ruins, looking for anything reflective. The village had been bombed 3 days earlier. Most buildings were rubble. But bathrooms, bedrooms, and shops had contained mirrors. Some survived. Morrison found a compact mirror in an abandoned cafe. 3 inches diameter, small but functional. He mounted it using wire from a destroyed radio set. Benedetto salvaged a rearview mirror from a German Kübelwagen. The vehicle had burned, but the mirror was intact, chrome backing, 4 by 5 inches, perfect size. He polished it with gun oil until it reflected clearly. Wright couldn't find a glass mirror. Instead, he cut a piece of polished chrome trim from a destroyed Panzer. The metal was already reflective. He bent it slightly to adjust the focal point, mounted it with brackets improvised from ammunition can hinges. Patterson went further afield, found a downed Luftwaffe fighter 2 miles outside the village. The cockpit instruments had included small rectangular mirrors for checking 6 o'clock position. He salvaged 2, mounted them side by side in his Sherman's turret for a wider field of view. By 1600 hours, September 20th, 7 Shermans in the battalion had loader mirrors. Each installation was unique. Different materials, different mounting methods. But all followed the same principle: reflect the gunner's view to the loader's position. That evening, the modified tanks conducted loading drills. Practice sequences without live ammunition. Commanders timing their loaders. Comparing speeds. The results were consistent. Average loading time dropped from 6.2 seconds to 3.9 seconds. 37% improvement across all 7 tanks. September 22nd. The battalion engaged German mechanized infantry near Eschweiler. 6 Shermans with loader mirrors participated. 17 Shermans without mirrors. The engagement lasted 18 minutes. German infantry supported by Stug 3 assault guns. Combined arms defense. The kind of fight that required rapid ammunition switching. AP for the assault guns. HE for the infantry. Back to AP. Back to HE. Constant adaptation. The tanks with mirrors performed measurably better. Average loading time, 3.8 seconds. First round hit probability, 89%. 0 tanks lost. The tanks without mirrors showed standard performance. Average loading time, 6.7 seconds. First round accuracy, 67%. 2 tanks damaged, 1 destroyed. The data was undeniable. The mirror modification worked in combat, not just in theory. By September 25th, 23 Shermans in the 3rd Armoured Division had loader mirrors. The modifications varied wildly. Some loaders used single mirrors, others used 2 or 3 at different angles for wider coverage. Some mounted mirrors on fixed brackets. Others used adjustable systems that could be repositioned based on crew preference. Materials ranged from household, glass mirrors to polished steel to chrome automotive trim. One loader, Private First Class Danny O'Brien, created a mirror from the polished aluminum skin of a downed B-17. The metal was thin, lightweight, and reflective. He mounted it on a flexible arm that could be moved out of the way during loading if necessary. The mounting methods evolved. Early installations used simple wire. Later versions incorporated brackets, hinges, even spring-loaded arms that absorbed vibration during movement. Lieutenant Colonel Hayes, battalion commander, noticed the improved engagement statistics in his weekly reports. Sherman kill rates were up 28%. First-round accuracy was up 22%. Tank losses were down 31%. Hayes didn't initially know about the mirrors. He attributed the improvements to increased crew experience and improved morale following recent tactical successes. But tank commanders knew. They compared notes during evening briefings. C. Company's loaders were loading 40% faster than last month. Someone had put mirrors in their turrets. Mirrors like you'd find in a bathroom. The innovation spread through informal channels. Loader to loader. Commander to commander. No official documentation. No formal training program. Just mechanics showing each other what worked. By September 28th, the modification had jumped divisions. A loader from the 2nd Armoured Division saw one of the mirrors during a joint operation. Asked about it. Got the explanation. Went back to his unit and built one. Within a week, 2nd Armoured had 12 tanks with loader mirrors. The 4th Armoured Division, Patton's unit, adopted it even faster. Patton's philosophy was simple. If it wins fights, use it. Regulations could catch up later. By October 5th, an estimated 40 Shermans in 4th Armoured had the modification. The innovation was spreading organically. No orders from above. No official authorization. Just crews doing what crews always did. Finding solutions to problems that were killing them. But organic spread had limitations. It was slow, inconsistent, and it was about to hit institutional resistance. Because on September 27th, Captain Gerald Ashford of the Ordnance Corps arrived at 3rd Armoured Division headquarters to conduct routine equipment inspections. And Captain Ashford believed very strongly in regulations. September 27th, 1030 hours. Captain Ashford entered Brawler's turret during his inspection. He was 34 years old, West Point graduate, Ordnance Corps. He'd spent 3 years at Aberdeen Proving Ground testing equipment. He understood armour, understood specifications, understood that military equipment worked because it followed tested, approved designs. He saw the mirror immediately. "Corporal," Ashford said, looking at Hutchins, "what is this unauthorized modification?" Hutchins stood at attention. "Loader situational awareness aid, sir." "That's not standard equipment." "No, sir. Field improvisation. Field improvisations require authorization from Ordnance Department. You can't install random objects in combat vehicles." "It doesn't interfere with any system, sir." "That's not the point." Ashford touched the mirror, examined the wire mounting. Regulations exist for crew safety. This mirror could shatter during combat. Glass fragments in an enclosed space. You could blind yourself. Blind your commander. Regulations exist for reasons, Corporal. It's been through 5 engagements, sir. Hasn't shattered. That's not the standard we use for equipment approval. 5 engagements isn't statistically significant. The Ordnance Department conducts hundreds of test firings before approving any equipment modification. Sergeant McKinley climbed into the turret. Saw Ashford examining the mirror. Problem, sir. This unauthorized modification. How long has it been installed? 8 days. And you approved it? It improves crew performance, sir. Loader can see forward. Reduces loading time by 40%. Ashford turned to McKinley. I'm sure you believe that, Sergeant. But belief isn't data. The Ordnance Department extensively tested Sherman crew efficiency during design phase. Loader mirrors were considered and rejected. Do you know why? No, sir. 3 reasons. First, distraction potential. Loaders should focus on ammunition handling, not battlefield observation. That's the gunner's job. Second, obstruction. Depending on turret position, mirrors can interfere with gun elevation. Third, fragmentation hazard. Glass shatters. In enclosed space, fragments become projectiles. McKinley gestured at the mirror. This one hasn't shattered, hasn't obstructed anything. And our loader's performance has improved measurably. Measurably according to what standard? Combat impressions, subjective assessment. Ashford shook his head. The Army doesn't approve equipment based on anecdotal experience. We use controlled testing, statistical analysis, engineering review. Sir, Hutchins said, we killed 3 Panzers in 4 minutes using this mirror. And I commend your crew's performance, Corporal. But correlation isn't causation. You might have killed those Panzers regardless. Without proper control groups and repeated trials, you can't prove the mirror made the difference. Ashford pulled a notebook from his jacket. Wrote something. I'm issuing a written directive. All non-standard optical devices must be removed from turret interiors immediately. Violation constitutes unauthorized modification of military equipment under Article 108. Distribution will go to all tank commanders by 1600 hours today. Compliance deadline. September 30th, 0800 hours. He looked at Hutchins. Remove it, Corporal. That's an order. Ashford climbed out of the turret, moved to the next tank in line. Hutchins and McKinley remained inside. Silent. The mirror reflected morning light. 4 by 6 inches of glass that had killed 3 German tanks. McKinley spoke first. You going to remove it? Too. You ordering me to? I'm asking what you're going to do. Hutchins looked at the mirror. Thought about loading blind. Thought about the 2.3 seconds wasted craning his neck around the breech. Thought about wrong ammunition killing crews. I'm going to cover it with canvas during inspections, Hutchins said. And uncover it before combat. McKinley smiled. That's what I thought you'd say. September 27th, 1600 hours. Ashford's written directive arrived at every tank commander's station. Formal letterhead, official stamp, clear language. Subject: removal of unauthorized optical equipment. 2. All tank commanders. 3rd Armored Division. Effective immediately. All non-standard optical devices installed in tank turrets must be removed. This includes but is not limited to mirrors, reflective surfaces, improvised viewing aids not issued through proper supply channels. Justification: unauthorized modifications compromise crew safety and violate equipment maintenance protocols. The Ordnance Department has rigorously tested Sherman tank crew efficiency. Loader positioning and sight lines are optimized for combat effectiveness. Field modifications circumvent testing procedures designed to ensure soldier safety. Compliance: All affected equipment must be removed by 30 September 1944, 0800 hours. Company commanders will verify compliance through inspection. Consequences. Failure to comply constitutes unauthorized modification of military property under UCMJ, Article 108. Signed, Captain Gerald B. Ashford, Ordnance Corps. The response varied by crew. Some commanders complied immediately. Lieutenant Charles Brennan of a company ordered his loader to remove the mirror. "It's not worth a court-martial," Brennan said. "Orders are orders." His loader, Private Joseph Diaz, removed the salvaged compact mirror, stored it in his personal kit, went back to loading blind. Other commanders found creative interpretations. Captain Robert Vance of B Company read the directive carefully. Non-standard optical devices. His loader's mirror was polished steel, not glass. Technically not an optical device. Technically a piece of metal. Vance decided the directive didn't apply. The mirror stayed. Most commanders took the middle path. Remove mirrors during the day. Reinstall them at night. Cover them with canvas or cloth during inspections. Hide them in storage bins when officers approached. Lieutenant Hartwell, whose life Brawler had saved on September 19th, took a different approach. He wrote a formal response. Subject: Request for reconsideration. Loader visibility aids. 2. Captain Gerald B. Ashford, Ordnance Corps, sir. I respectfully request reconsideration of the directive ordering removal of loader mirrors. These devices have measurably improved crew performance and survival rates in my platoon. Supporting data. Average loader time reduction, 38%, from 6.2 to 3.8 seconds. First round accuracy improvement, 24% from 65% to 89%. Tank losses, 2 tanks lost in August, pre-mirror. 0 tanks lost in September, post-mirror. The mirrors do not interfere with turret operation. They do not obstruct gun movement. Glass fragmentation has not occurred in over 40 combat engagements across 23 tanks. Recommendation: rather than removing these effective field modifications, I recommend official authorization and standardization. Respectfully, 1st Lieutenant Thomas Hartwell, Platoon Commander, C Company. Ashford's response arrived the next morning. 2 sentences. Lieutenant Hartwell, your observations are noted. The directive stands. Compliance is mandatory. September 30th, 0800 hours. Compliance deadline. Ashford conducted inspections personally. 12 tanks. He found mirrors in 9 of them.